We're all seeing this massive shift to online learning happening all around the world, and it's kind of fascinating. Because on one side, you've got these huge, ambitious national blueprints, big government plans to create digital societies. But then, on the other side, you have the day-to-day reality for the people who are actually making the content that fuels this whole revolution. So what happens when that big, grand plan hits the real world? Well, let's find out.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We'll kick things off with the online learning revolution as a whole. Then, we're going to zoom right into Nepal's very ambitious digital blueprint. After that, we'll look at the cultural jump from traditional learning to tech-based education, and then we'll hear from the creators on the front lines. And finally, we'll see what happens when that blueprint meets the reality on the ground.
All right, first up, the online learning revolution. Education has totally broken free from the four walls of the classroom. Just think about it. Platforms that were originally built just for connecting with friends have turned into these massive global classrooms. They've literally become essential tools for how we learn new things.
Let me just ask you this. Think about the last year, when you needed to learn something new. Maybe you had to fix a leaky pipe, or understand a really complex topic for work, or even just pick up a new hobby. Where did you go first? I'm willing to bet your answer says a whole lot about how radically our access to knowledge has changed.
Now, don't get me wrong, traditional places like universities and libraries are still incredibly important. But our learning world, our ecosystem, has just exploded. The modern classroom isn't just a lecture hall anymore. It's a YouTube tutorial on quantum physics. It's an infographic on Instagram explaining a piece of history. Or it's a Facebook live stream teaching you how to code. This is learning that's happening everywhere, and it's so much more dynamic and accessible.
So now, let's zoom in and look at a really fascinating case study, Nepal. We're going from that big global trend down to one country's specific, really ambitious plan to grab hold of this digital transformation. This is the top-down vision for a completely wired nation.
So, way back in 2015, the government of Nepal laid out this incredibly powerful vision. And the core idea was simple but huge: to use technology as the main engine for sustainable development and, to really improve the quality of life for every single citizen.
And this was not just lip service. The policy set these incredibly clear, bold, and measurable goals to hit by 2020. Just look at this. They were aiming for 75% digital literacy, getting 80% of government services online, and having the tech sector make up 7.5% of the entire economy. This was a serious roadmap for a digital future.
And if you want one number that just shows the sheer scale of their ambition, here it is: getting broadband internet access to 90% of the population. That's not just an upgrade, that's a total transformation of a country.
But here's the thing. A digital revolution isn't just about laying down fiber optic cables, right? It's a huge cultural shift. And in a place like Nepal, which has educational traditions that go back for centuries, that shift from Gurukul to Google is a massive deal.
So on one hand, you have the traditional Gurukul system. It's this intimate, in-person model where students literally learned life skills directly from a teacher, a guru. And then on the other hand, you have online learning. It's global, it's driven by tech, and you can access it from anywhere. We're talking about a really profound cultural leap.
Okay, so now let's meet the people who are actually on the ground floor of this digital transformation, the educational content creators. Their story, it turns out, reveals this universal balancing act between their passion for teaching and the very real challenges of making it all happen.
A recent study gave us this really amazing peek behind the curtain. It focused on the actual lived experiences of successful creators. We're talking educators who each have over 300,000 subscribers. And it shows us what it really takes to create educational content that actually has an impact. So the study basically boiled it down to these 7 core pillars that these creators are constantly juggling. It's this incredible balancing act, right? You have to design for your user, you have to mix education with entertainment, you have to make sure everything's accurate, build a community, and you're doing all of this while fighting against the clock and working with very limited resources.
So here's the key thing: their incredible commitment to getting it right. As this one creator put it, accuracy is everything. They really see themselves as educators first, and they spend a ton of time researching to make absolutely sure the information they're putting out there is credible and trustworthy.
But that passion for accuracy runs smack into the very real problem of time. The same creator points out that the single biggest challenge is just finding the hours in the day to record and edit high-quality stuff. And that's a struggle that, honestly, anyone who's ever tried to create something can probably relate to.
And the hurdles just keep coming. Most of these creators are juggling this work with a full-time job. They're facing constant pressure, they have limited resources. But listen to this. For some, the most fundamental obstacle, and this is in their own words, is that a stable internet connection is the greatest burden. Just let that sink in for a second.
And that right there brings us to the absolute heart of this whole thing. This is the moment where that big, top-down government blueprint for a digital nation collides with the bottom-up, on-the-ground reality that we just heard from the creators themselves. This is where it all comes together so clearly. The government policy envisions universal broadband access, right? But the reality for the people making the content is that an unstable connection is their greatest burden. The government wants to promote local content, but the creators themselves are burning out, just struggling to find the time to make a video. The vision is powerful, no doubt, but there is a major disconnect with the reality on the ground.
So this leaves us with one final and, I think, crucial question. Big, ambitious policies are absolutely essential for setting a direction. But if the actual digital future is being built, one video at a time, by these passionate individuals, then who is responsible for building the bridge between that big blueprint and their daily reality? Answering that question is the real key to unlocking the true potential of digital education, not just in Nepal, but everywhere.